You're listening to international investment advisor Doug Goldstein on the Goldstein on Gelt show, the financial show where we'll talk about how you can make the most of your money. With all the confusing financial chatter bombarding you each and every day, Goldstein on Gelt will give you the practical information you want and need about living a financially stable life. Here's your host, money maven Doug Goldstein.
Okay, we are back. We are talking to Rabbi Nachum Shifren. He's been featured in People magazine, the Los Angeles Times, the Jerusalem Post, GQ magazine, the Jewish Press, Surfer magazine, the Jerusalem Post, and other international media. He's also appeared on ABC's Good Morning America, CNN, Phil Donahue, NPR Radio, JTN, Fox TV, Deutsche Welle TV, Dutch, Spanish, and Canadian national TV. He's very involved in California state politics, and he has taken the time now to tell us a little bit about what's going on in California. So, Rabbi Shifren, I would like to welcome you to the show.
Thank you so much, Doug.
I appreciate your being here. I just have to ask the first question, because you have such a great title known as the Surfing Rabbi. How did that come about?
Oh, gosh. Well, you know, I'm one of the original Malibu surfers, and I started in 1962.
Wow.
So that goes back a ways, and, you know, what I find so interesting, Doug, is living in Israel, you bump into amazing people. I mean, there's no reality show in the world that could beat the diversity of the Baal Tshuva movement and the people in the yeshivas. Go to any one of those yeshivas in Yerushalayim, and I promise you, you're going to find a surfer or a skier or a mountain climber or a weightlifter that has an amazing story to tell. And it just so happens that I was very involved with surfing, and that's how it stuck.
You've been widely quoted, and you've certainly spoken about a number of very sensitive topics, specifically about the problems that college students are having, Jewish college students are having, as they're confronted with Sharia law and a very pro-Arab lobby. As someone who lives in America, you're aware that freedom of religion is certainly a hallmark of American ideals. But you really do speak out against Sharia law. Do you think that all of Islam deserves to get such a bad rap, since there are so many patriotic American Arabs?
Well, there's two different things, two definitions. One is worshiping God, and the other is trying to impose one's will on other people. We don't do that here. We go to our church or our synagogue, and we go home, and that's it. It's over with. But that's not how it is with Sharia. Sharia is an accommodating of a foreign culture in the host culture, to the degree that the foreign culture supersedes the host culture. There's nobody. We are not imposing, eating chicken soup upon the American people. No one is imposing eating kosher food. No one's imposing davening 3 times a day. We believe in live and let live. Well, that's not how it is with Sharia. Sharia is they're in the schools. Well, since they're in the schools, you've got to have time for them to pray 5 times a day. You've got to supply them with rugs. You have to purchase foot baths for them. You have to separate boys and girls. That's
Sorry, this is happening. This is going on in public schools or in private?
Absolutely, as we speak.
I'm sorry, maybe I'm a little bit far away. So you're saying that in the public schools, you're funded by public money. Students are. The school system is changing to radically accommodate these.
Absolutely. The reason that the schools are changing, the reason that the accommodation for radical Islam is happening. Now, this would not happen 50 years ago in America, Doug.
Mm-hmm.
No way. No way that a General Patton or a General Eisenhower or a General MacArthur would come back from fighting to save their nation, only to have it being taken over by a medieval 7th century, ethos. It's not going to happen.
One of the differences, or maybe I'm just to clarify, obviously the Jewish culture is also incredibly old, and there certainly are many religions, right, where there's some level of missionizing going on that are also from before the 7th century. So the issue that you're raising is that they seem to be more successful at getting in than perhaps, I forget the group. When I lived in America, there used to be this group that comes door to door.
That's their job, to be successful and get in. This is the essence of who they are. Failure is not an option for them. This is the difference between the Christian, the Gentile, the Jew, the Hindu, and the Buddhist, every one of the major religions. This is not the issue with Islam. Islam is not. It's more of a political thing. It's more politics than it is religion. If it was religion, we would be having bagels and lox together and laughing together and hey, how you doing? This and that. But that's not how it works. They isolate themselves in communities where it's only them, and then they don't allow police and fire people to come in because, after all, you can't come in there in their communities and to ask questions of their burqa and what's the word I'm looking for? Burqa clothed women. That's how you can't. After a while, they run the show. They run the communities. And indeed, we've got at least 30 camps, armed camps in the United States, where they're training the future jihadists, the future shaheeds that will be the vanguard of the imposition of the next caliphate in the United States of America. So, when the Jewish kids on our campuses are confronted with this, they're not ready for it.
When you go to Muncie or you go to Square, New York, right there, these are Jewish ghettos where they really have very little connection with the outside, and they run their own schools and they don't even want to be involved with what the Department of Education tells them to do, right? And in other words, you're saying that the Islam groups are segregating themselves, but lots of groups segregate themselves, no?
Yeah, but the difference is that we're not plotting 24/7 to kill white Christians. That's the difference.
How are you, or how can we be aware of that going on?
By supporting the California Security Council. We're the only group that tells it like it is and goes to the campus and is in their face. And this is what the radical Muslims understand. They only understand in your face. If it's less than in your face, they'll walk right over you.
Are you worried that simply by doing that it creates more press for them? In other words, there's more media because it's interesting?
Well, I could care less about that. We need press for ourselves.
I see.
Don't forget that whatever we do is magnified in the press as well, which is good.
And how about training? I mean, one of the things that I've found with Jewish kids who come to Israel is they seem to know so little about the situation here. I mean, obviously the colleges themselves aren't teaching them. What sort of programs are available for Jewish kids in America just to learn the Jewish story?
Nothing. We are completely remiss. Let me give you an idea, Doug, of what's going on here. We have Hillel on every frickin' campus in this country. Hillel. A multi-million-dollar corporation. Now, in UC Irvine, which is in California, where I live, what happens to the kids that are in Hillel that want to learn about the Middle East? Simple. There's a group called the Olive Tree Initiative, OTI. You can look at it online. OTI sends Jews as well as Muslim students together to tour Israel. Now, they don't go to the Yeshivat Merkaz Harav for a tour. They don't go to the Shomron to see the settlements and how the families are doing and how they're thriving out there, how Jewish organic agriculture has become a big hit in Europe and how their marketing is doing. That's not what they're interested in. They're interested in denigrating Israel. They go hear Muslim extremists speak to these very impressionable Jewish kids. Now, the Muslim students are already set up for it. They get it. But what we are doing is spending millions of dollars of Jewish money. Now, this is Jewish Federation money that is siphoned off into Hillel to send Jewish kids to the Middle East, and they come back advocating on the behalf of a Palestinian state. Now, what is wrong with this picture? Is this the dream of returning to Zion, where our own children are getting sucked up into a pro-Palestinian Führer? I don't think so, but who talks about it? Who cares?
The people who donate the money, the people who are donating money to these organizations, are they aware that their money?
The people that donate money to these organizations, they know less than their children that go on these diabolical trips.
As someone who's very involved in the public life in America, at what point, there is a certain point, I would think, that Jews should say, listen, maybe the place we should be is Israel, right? You know, we've done our work here, or there's not much more we can do here. You know, let's all move to Israel. Is that a big focus of what you're trying to do?
No, it's not. It's not. I was in the Israeli army. I own a home on one of the quote-unquote Yishuvim Hamim, if you want to call it that way. I've been involved with Jewish activism in Israel. The leftist government in Israel is bent on a total destruction course of anybody that stands in their way. If any Jew in Israel thinks that just by living in Israel you're going to get her done, it ain't going to happen. We need to be together, united. It's the JDL all over again. It needs to be on every campus, and it especially needs to be in Israel. Israel is absolutely the most politically correct place in the whole world. I say what I want. And there is a place for Jews in America that we need Jews to advocate and to fight for Jewish rights and Jewish strength. And this is precisely what I am doing here. Otherwise, I don't need to be here. This is the problem that we face. It's a problem of perception. It's a problem of gross laxity with the Jewish establishment, which is completely out to lunch over here.
All right. Well, one thing is true, that you do certainly have the opportunity for freedom of speech, which I'm very glad, and it certainly is quite interesting talking to Rabbi Nachum Shifren of out in California, quite on the other side of the globe from us, and he is the director of the California Security Council, which you can learn more about at www.securecalifornia.com. Rabbi Shifren, I'd like to thank you very much for joining us on the show today.
God bless you, Doug. Yesher Koach.
Thanks.
You've been listening to the Goldstein on Gelt show with money maven Doug Goldstein. Doug's weekly radio show is heard around the world, but if you miss it, you can download the podcast at www.goldsteinongelt.com. The Goldstein on Gelt show gives you up-to-date financial ideas so you can get on the path to financial freedom. If you'd like your questions answered on the air or off, send Doug an email to doug@profile-financial.com. It's your money for your future, so join Doug every week to build your wealth on the Goldstein on Gelt show.